which is not only ongoing at this hour, it seems to be advancing just a bit, David.
Kevin and Alicia, it is. I spoke to two law enforcement sources briefed on this evolving investigation. The suspect's name is Cole Allen, 31 years old. He's from Torrance, California, Southern California. We know that the FBI going through his apartment right now. We're told that he may have been a guest at the hotel. That's been reported as well. Working to get a little bit more details there. But that is a picture that you see on the screen next to me of Cole Allen, per two senior law enforcement sources briefed on this matter. They're going, as I said, through the apartment, through cell phones, to see who he may have spoken to see if anybody was aware of this. So he's 31 from Southern California. Still so many questions, though, that we are waiting for this hour as we are approaching the midnight hour. You heard the U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro announce some of the charges. She said more charges will be filed in federal court. Also, Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, was at the White House behind me as President Trump and members of his cabinet briefed the press, and he said that there would be more as this happens. So I suspect that we will learn more about this suspect as the days come out. But I will note that this is extraordinarily a short period of time to not only find out the name of a suspect, but see a picture, see surveillance video. I mean, this was all done within an hour or so of that incident that happened, and that's because the President of the United States and all of the top law enforcement officials wanted to make this public and be transparent so people could see what was going on and what happened. Kevin, Alicia?
David, that really was an incredible thing that the president was sharing this with us in real time as quickly as he could. He was getting it out to us. One note on something that came out of the news conference with law enforcement. The interim police chief for D.C. did say that the suspect was staying in a room at the hotel and that room had been secured. And then additionally, we were told that the suspect had a long gun, a handgun, and multiple knives. And all of that is so incredibly frightening when you just think about the fact that law enforcement says the suspect was in the hotel. And David, I don't know if you know this or not, but how does it work when you have this event and multiple events in this very specific hotel with dignitaries, and you have also guests there that have nothing to do with that event? What are the security protocols? Do you know how that works?
Well, I don't want to speculate. I don't know specifically how it would work each time, but I'll tell you this. Gun laws in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, are incredibly tight, are incredibly strict. So to think that, yes, he may have been a guest at the hotel, as the interim police chief said, and yes, he may have had guns on him, it's curious to see, number one, how that would have happened, and number two, what the security protocol was like for guests, knowing that the President of the United States, the Vice President, pretty much the entire cabinet was there. I said earlier when I was on the phone shortly after this happened, because I was in the room when it happened and heard 4 of those gunshots about a half of a floor or a floor up from where we were. That was the most secure room in the world, one could argue, at that exact time, because the President of the United States, the Vice President, the cabinet was in there. There were helicopters above, and this was before that even took place, before any shots were fired. It was just such a secure room. So it's a very important question you asked, and those questions do need to be asked to the hotel and to local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, about the security posture at that hotel, given the fact that he was a guest. But I do know that D.C. gun laws are extraordinarily tight. Doesn't mean that he could not have potentially smuggled a gun inside. We'd have to see how long he was staying there for. But security was tight, because this was something that was on the books for a long time, and President Trump had committed to coming to this several weeks ago. Alicia?
David, let me jump in here really quickly. Thank you, Alicia. You know, when I think about some of the coverage that I've seen tonight, the question has been, I think, a fairly decent one, and that is what can be done moving forward to ensure the safety not just of the president and other dignitaries, but obviously of the attendees as well. And yet, I think as this investigation moves along, one of the more important aspects just might be how we can, at the very least, continue to surveil everyone who comes in and out of that particular facility. Because I think there are a lot of people who feel very strongly, David, that this hotel has history. And unless and until there is, for example, a secure ballroom at the White House that can house this many people at a major event, there has to be a lot more done. And those are conversations that have to take place immediately and in a fulsome way moving forward. I think you would agree.
Yeah, I would agree. And I will add that, this hotel, for people that don't know, is the hotel where just outside, downstairs, Ronald Reagan was shot in 1981.
That's right.
And many people remember that. That was outside. That was a different circumstance. It was a different entrance. But that was where President Reagan was shot. So the hotel absolutely had history. And, there certainly will be a full review of this going forward. This is where the dinner has been held for decades. It's not clear if the dinner will be continuing to be held here in the future, but it's a location that could fit all of those people. I mean, it was massive, but I will say, being inside tonight, it did feel about as packed as it felt since I've been going to that dinner. I mean, you could see that just about every person was in there, and every table they could have fit, I should say, was in there, and people were sitting almost against the walls in the back, probably further than they have been before. So the security protocols are something that authorities need to look at. Kevin?
And David, can you talk to us a little bit about where you think this investigation goes? It's just getting started. We know that they're in the apartment, as you reported, in Torrance, California, about who this person, the suspect, Cole Allen, is, if he had any public ideologies that he'd shared on social media, anybody he knew. They're calling him a lone gunman right now, law enforcement. Where does this go?
Well, they're talking to people that know him. They're going to check social media posts. They're going to take those ballistics. They're going to take the bullets to the crime lab, the FBI crime lab in Quantico, which is about 20 minutes, 25, 30, with no traffic in Washington, D.C., just outside D.C. in Northern Virginia. So that's where they take all of that. That is the best of the best who works. Those are the best of the best who work at Quantico. As far as the charges are concerned, D.C. is unique because it's not a state. It's a city, but it's within a federal district, the District of Columbia. So federal charges almost certainly will be filed in this case. And I think just from seeing what we've seen tonight over the past hour or so, when President Trump took the podium behind me in the press briefing room, again, it's truly something to see the video and the pictures and have all of this information about this person so soon. So I suspect these charges will be escalated as far as the speed of the charges, the speed of the timetable of law enforcement. Sometimes law is slow, sometimes justice can be slow, but I have a feeling in this case things will be sped up.
David, I know you to be a tough guy. I'm just curious, in the moments when everything was unfolding, what was going through your mind?
Well, I was talking to a colleague of mine, and we were just having a regular conversation. She was sitting next to me, and I heard 4 pops, pop, 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 pop. And a lot of people started screaming and said, "Get down, there's a gun." So immediately got down on the floor, made sure my colleagues were on the floor, made sure everybody was down and secure. And we didn't move until we really could hear people going through to make sure that everybody was safe. I saw the FBI director, Kash Patel. He was being escorted out when I was able to get up from the floor to see what was going on. And it was chaotic. I mean, no question it was chaotic. But in the end, we're thankful that nobody was hurt inside, and we're thankful that the officer is okay.
You know, David, in the immediate moments when all of this was unfolding, we were hearing conflicting reports that this was going to continue, that the event was going to continue. The president wanted to go back out there and make his speech, that basically that the show was going to go on. And then we heard, no, it's going to be canceled. So it became kind of evident that there was negotiation going on between the president and the Secret Service over exactly what was possible here, right? Because he wants to show the American public that he's still standing once again. So that brings me to the next event that he says is going to happen within the next 30 days. He hopes that there will be another White House Correspondents' Dinner where you can actually have dinner and hear what he has to say. How tough is that going to be to pull off?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be difficult because the White House Correspondents Association, who works incredibly hard, and the board, Jackie and everybody on that board worked so hard all year to put this on. They put everything on tonight. Everything, the money was spent, the dinners were there, things were done. I mean, this was the night. So to get that together in 30 days might be difficult, but it's something the president said he wants. I suspect that he spoke to members of the board as well. and who want to do it. So that's the goal, is to get it done. But the reason that he did not come back out tonight, even though he wanted to, as he said in the briefing room, is because it just was too dangerous. The Secret Service and probably some of his aides were concerned that there could have been somebody else. I mean, when that's happening that quickly, now we know a little bit more. Tomorrow we'll know even more about this suspect. But as it's happening and you're 30, 45 minutes out, you don't know if there could be another shooter or another attacker. So you have to be careful, and that's why that decision was made.
David, we're looking at pictures of the video that the White House released, some of the security footage. What struck you in watching how quickly the gunman tried to rush past the mags and how quickly the team sprung into action?
Incredibly quickly. He was going for it. He was ready to go for it. And those Secret Service officers and officers were there. They were incredibly brave, and they jumped into action. And, we're glad that that officer is okay, that was hit. The officer was hit. His bullet resistant or bulletproof vest was hit, and we're glad that that person's okay. But, yeah, it just shows you what these people deal with on the stage. President Trump and Vice President Vance and the First Lady, they were all taken to safety. And immediately you saw agents with long guns and shotguns, rifles, come to the stage just seconds after it sounded, those gunshots sounded. So they were ready, and they are ready. Incredible reaction. Alicia.
Yeah, and David, I think this week coming up is going to be very interesting in Washington when it comes to the conversations. Bill Melugin pointed out very early on when all of this was unfolding that as of right now, the U.S. Secret Service under the DHS is not funded, is not fully funded. There are some frontline agents that are being paid. They're getting money from the big, beautiful bill. But there are many people behind the scenes who are not. And I have to imagine that tonight that changes at least some of the conversations, if not some sort of action, maybe going forward.
Well, it certainly may do that, no question, because, yes, part of the Secret Service has been without funds, and that clearly is something that I think lawmakers on both sides will talk about. Something else is very important to mention is that on Monday, King Charles and Queen Camilla are coming over from the United Kingdom.
That's right.
And they are going to come here for a state visit for several days. And they're going to be in Washington. Sure, they're going to be at the White House behind me. Things are secure here. But they also have plans to go to New York and meet with everyday people. They have plans to go to Virginia, a national park in Northern Virginia, and see local people there. So, I suspect that the Secret Service is going to work on that plan and really come together and talk a little bit more now that this happened tonight, given the fact not only that they've gone without funds, but the fact that the King and Queen will be here in just a few days.
Great reporting as always, David Spunt, for us over at the White House.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox 1.
But it's going to be interesting. Now, the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, is also speaking. We want to take her comments now live.
Was injured and transported to a local hospital where the agent is receiving care. The suspect is also transported to a local hospital where he is being evaluated. The president returned safely to the White House, as you know. We are so very thankful to members of law enforcement who did their jobs tonight and made sure that all guests were safe. We have no reason to believe at this time that anyone else was involved. I want to turn to the chief of the Metropolitan Police Department, Chief Carroll, to provide a law enforcement update and specifics.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, I'm Jeff Carroll, Interim Chief of Police for the Metropolitan Police Department. This afternoon and this evening, members of the United States Secret Service and the Metropolitan Police Department were here at the Washington Hotel for a site detail for the Correspondence Center. As the mayor mentioned, at approximately 8:36 tonight, an individual charged a U.S. Secret Service checkpoint here in the lobby area of the hotel. He was armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. As he ran through that checkpoint, members of law enforcement from the United States Secret Service intercepted that individual. This is a very preliminary investigation at this point. We do know that law enforcement exchanged gunfire with the individual. We do know that a U.S. Secret Service Uniform Division officer was struck in his vest. He was transported to a local hospital for treatment. He seems to be in good spirits at this time. The suspect in this case, he was not struck by gunfire. However, he was transported to a local hospital to be evaluated. Again, we're very early in the investigation. We have members of the United States Secret Service, the Metropolitan Police Department, and the FBI here to continue to investigate this matter. But at this point, it does appear he is a lone actor, a lone gunman. There does not appear to be any sort of danger to the public at this time. However, we are continuing to investigate this matter. At this point, I will turn it over to, I believe, the FBI.
Hi, good evening. I'm Darren Cox. I'm the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Washington Field Office. The American public should be proud of the quick response and heroic actions from law enforcement officers tonight to keep the American public safe. Their actions are absolutely heroic. The public should also rest assured that there will be no stone unturned during this investigation. The FBI currently has our Joint Terrorism Task Force here on scene, along with our Criminal Division, our Crisis Response Team, and agents from across the country are working on any leads that may come in this investigation. Anyone with tips in this investigation should call 1-800-CALL-FBI. Thank you.
Director Curran.
Thank you. My name is Sean Curran, I'm the Director of the Secret Service. Tonight, we saw exactly what our brave men and women do each and every day to protect our protectees. It's not easy, and I will tell you that they performed admirably. We got to see what they do, and that individual, when he charged a checkpoint, was apprehended. It shows that our multi-layered protection works, and I'm grateful to our partners that help assist us with building these sites and protecting these sites. Very fortunate that this officer is alive, is being observed, and I'm grateful that the President reached out to this officer and spoke with him earlier. I ask everybody to pray for him and all of our officers and agents that were involved, and I will tell you, we will continue with the mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Shapiro.
I'm Janine Pirro. I'm the United States Attorney. Right now, the defendant is being charged with 2 counts, 924C, using a firearm during a crime of violence, and a second crime under 111, which is assault on a federal officer using a dangerous weapon. Now, as you all know, there was an individual, a uniformed Secret Service officer, who was shot, and fortunately, he is doing all right and he will be fine. But it is clear, based upon what we know so far, that this individual was intent on doing as much harm and as much damage as he could. And thankfully, because of the checkpoint right outside the ballroom, where thousands of people were situated to hear the President of the United States, because that checkpoint worked, there was no one who was injured when it was clear where this defendant was going. Now, I want to make one comment. As a participant, someone who was in the ballroom, who came this evening to be part of a very lovely event at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I, for the first time, was in a situation where there were shots fired, shots heard, and a whole room went silent. When I lifted my head and when I looked up, every law enforcement officer was out there as we all had our heads down, thousands of them. These are the men and women every day who do what they do silently, and they do it with courage and with dignity. Thank God for our partners, the FBI, the Secret Service, the Metropolitan Police. All of them tonight acted so quickly that they prevented what could have been a horrific event where we were all sitting there in one room. The defendant will be arraigned on Monday in federal district court. But make no mistake, There will be many more charges based upon the information that we are learning in this very fluid situation. Thank you.
Take a few questions. Right here in the front. Right here in the front.
Can you confirm that this suspect is specifically targeting the president, and is he talking to law enforcement now?
Chief.
Sure. So at this point, what we know is we know the individual charged at checkpoint with a firearm in his hand. We know he was running in the direction of the ballroom that the president was in, as well as other cabinet members. So what his specific motivation was, we can't say at this point. However, as we continue to investigate that, we'll continue to work towards that.
Chief, when you say
here,
there seems to have been a lack of authorization to come to this event. Was this a failure on the Secret Service?
I mean, what we have here is a multi-layered approach. The director spoke about it. We have officers on the outside from the Metropolitan Police Department, along with the escort. The inside portion of any presidential site is handled by the Secret Service and law enforcement partners. This is a multi-layered approach. The point of this checkpoint is to intercept individuals that were there, and what we see in this case is when he reached that checkpoint, Secret Service agents and law enforcement engaged him immediately. They were able to bring him into custody and prevent anyone from being harmed.
Chief Carroll,
right here.
Chief Carroll, can you tell us if you found a vehicle associated with the suspect, and are you or the FBI conducting any search warrants either on a vehicle or locations here or elsewhere around the country?
Sure, Mark. So as you can imagine, this is very early in the investigation. So, things we're digging into is his background, vehicles. Those are all things that the FBI, the Metropolitan Police Department, and the Secret Service are working together jointly to determine, is there anything else that's available? So I would imagine as we continue to go through this investigation, there will be additional search warrants and things of that nature as the investigation progresses.
Is the suspect known to law enforcement?
At this point, he was not known to the Metropolitan Police Department, I can tell you that.
Right here.
Chief, there are multiple other parties and events happening associated with this weekend tonight. Is there any reason to believe that there will be security concerns at those events? Are there preparations being made locally to protect those attendees?
Yeah, absolutely not. So we have no indication. This is an isolated incident with one individual is the information that we do have. However, we do have additional officers across the city that are giving special attention. We do know there were some after parties and events that are planned that we will be providing coverage for those events.
Yep.
The president said that this is not a particularly secure building. Do you agree with that assessment?
I'm not exactly 100% familiar with this building. I do know in this incident tonight, I know there was a security plan that was developed by the Secret Service that the Metropolitan Police Department assisted with, and I know that security plan did work this evening.
Right here.
Thank you so much. Do you know specifically if President Trump was a target of this attack? And can you speak to, there was reporting about the suspect assembling a long weapon to get into the ballroom. Can you speak to that at all?
Yes, as we said before, we do know the president was inside the ballroom. We know there was cabinet members and many guests in there. Who specifically he was targeting at this point, that's part of the investigation. We do know that he was armed with a shotgun when he ran through that checkpoint, so that would look like a long weapon in video.
All right, right here.
Can you clarify, earlier you said there was an exchange of gunfire. Did the suspect fire any shots? And did the uniformed officer, do you know yet which weapon he was shot?
Yeah, obviously we're only a couple hours into this incident, so we don't have that level of information. The FBI's evidence response team is here. They're processing the scene. So as the investigation develops, all that information will be figured out with the ballistics. The ATF is also on scene here with us.
So the suspect did or did not fire a shot?
Sure. So again, it's very preliminary information. We do believe he did. However, as the investigation determines, we'll pull the shell casings. We'll be able to get more information as we review more evidence. We're very early in the investigation.
All right, we can take a couple more right here, and one more over here.
Thank you so much. So the president said that he wants there to be another event within 30 days. Given what happened tonight, do you have any sense of what additional security measures might be put in place to ensure that something similar does not happen again?
Sure. I'll toss it to the Secret Service.
Yep, this is what we plan for every day. So we take each and every case and we evaluate it, and we do site assessments. And that's why we go out and build these sites per what the event is, and that's how we go about our business.
So will there be any changes or added measures given that this did happen?
We're going to have to evaluate this evening.
Thank you.
Chief, is there any indication how the suspect got into the hotel? Was it a guest here? Are you searching rooms here?
So preliminary information, we do believe he was a guest here at the hotel. We have secured a room here in the hotel. And again, we'll go through the appropriate procedures to determine what was inside there. But that is secure. At this point, like I said, we believe he is the only suspect in this case.
Okay, to jump on that question, I understand the multi-approach to security, but to walk in with a weapon of that caliber and get all the way to the ballroom, which is on the lower level, seems to be quite an extraordinary feat. How does that happen?
Sure. So again, I mean, we're very early in the investigation, so we'll have to determine, we'll go through video across the hotel to figure out how the gun got in, how it got down here. Those things will come through the investigation. At this point, we don't have that level of detail.
Okay, last one. Yes, video appears to show the president falling down when he was being escorted out. Was he injured at all during his evacuation?
No, we don't have any information that he was injured.
Could you clarify how he was detained? If he was not shot, could you clarify how he was detained?
Sure. So law enforcement right here in this very area, they actually tackled him to the ground and handcuffed him.
Can you release
how many people are in the hospital?
Can you give us his name?
Not at this time.
Do we know?
We will release his name, Mark, once we have all the information. Again, we're still running a lot of things down.
How many people in the hospital?
In the hospital, so we have the Uniform Division Secret Service officer who's being evaluated at the hospital who took a round to the vest, and the suspect is being evaluated, but he was not struck by gunfire.
U.S. Attorney Pierre, are you looking at any terrorism charges?
Well, as the chief just indicated, we're very early in this investigation, but make no mistake, if there is anything like that, we will find it and we will file it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox 1.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Chanley Painter live.